friends, we are now starting our next little unit. It's kind of a mini unit of chapter 3 because we've been talking about parallel lines and we've been talking about polygons. And now we're going to talk about lines again, but we're going to do it with coordinate geometry. We're going to bring back in all of our types of slopes that we had. And so this one basically, it says lesson 3-6A, regular geometry notes, but I'd really like you to put in the date. Instead of the date, I'd like you to say slopes of lines. It kind of lets us know what we're working with. And we're going to identify slopes of lines because that's how we write equations of lines. And remember, slope tells you the steepness. And this is actually a real important thing to me because I had a cousin who was on a ski slope, and he actually died in a ski accident because the slope was so fast that he actually hit a tree. He was a professional skier, but yet he hit a tree. And so it's a big deal to me that people understand what slope is. So when we are working with this, I want to make sure that we know very well which ones we're talking about. Okay, so the first things first, let's do a few things and talk about what is slope. Now remember, slope is just the slant of a line. It can be described using the words rise over run, or I think Mr. McDonald was very good with doing change in y over the change in x. Remember, that's red. Change in y over the change in x. And it's basically doing the difference of those. And we had a formula that we used in order to do that. And the formula actually used 2 points, just like we did with the midpoint and distance formula. We had to pick any 2 points on the line to figure out its slope. And the slope formula, we used m to represent slope. Now, someone told me it was French. I asked the French teacher. There's nothing with m starting with slope, so I'm not sure where that came from. But with slope here, we have the following formula. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, understand, here's the thing. These two come from the same ordered pair, and these two come from the same ordered pair. It just lets us know, remember, the subscripts mean points. Now, to do that, we're going to actually use the 2 lines up above here. This one is line K, and this one's line J. Remember, we use lowercase letters to do that. I need 2 points. So the first one we're going to do is J on the bottom of the page. So let's find some points that J has. Well, one of the points we have is at -1, 2. And another point that we have is over here at 3, 3. So I'm going to write them down here, the 2 points. We have -1, 2, and we have our point at 3, 3. Now we're going to look for slope. Now, to do that, I'm going to actually label above these the fact they're points. I'm going to let this be point 1, let this be point 2. I'm going to write my formula down, and I want to make sure I plug it in exactly directly below it. So y2 is 3, so I go 3 minus y1, which is 2, so notice I'm going this direction, over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is a -1. I don't want to miss my numbers on here. So when I do that, I end up getting 3 minus 2, which is 1, over 3 minus a -1. So subtracting a negative makes it positive, exactly. So that makes that a +4. So my slope for this line is a +1/4. And remember, positive lines rise going left to right. So our slope is 1/4. Now, you could, and you don't have to write this down, go the other way around. I could switch around my points, as long as y's are on top. I could have gone 2 minus 3, so I could have gone 2 minus 3, over a -1 minus 3. All right, if I did that, I end up getting a -1 over a -4. A negative divided by negative is positive. So you have more than one way of finding that slope, and it gets the same thing. Now line K. Now line K we have to have some points also for. Here we have 0, -4, and we also have here -4, 0. So that's very helpful for us in order to find our lines. So we're going to go -4, 0, 0, -4. I'm going to write those down. Now, once again, I'm going to call these points, and I don't really care which one's which, so I'm just going to go x1, y1, x2, y2, so I can plug it into my formula a little bit easier. So here's our formula for slope. Yes, I expect you to have this memorized. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so I go y2. Now remember, y's go together, x's go together. Negative 4 minus 0 over 0 minus a negative 4. So negative 4 over 4 equals a negative 1. Now again, some of you might have gone the other way. Some of you might have gone 0 minus a negative 4 over negative 4 minus 0. So I still get 4 over negative 4 that way. It still ends up being a negative 1. So either method works, as long as you're being very consistent with it. Now, let's see if we can find the slopes of these given lines. Now, it's up to you, and it's a very good habit to always mark your points at first, or if you don't mark the points, draw in arrows. And let me explain both ways. I always think that if you're struggling with a new formula, you should label your points to help you with it, just like we did with midpoint and distance. And then you should always write your formula down. I've done this enough years now, I don't write the formula down on my own, but you need to do it. And if you get to the point where you can do it without the formula, great. But if not, you have to write it down. So I go, and I'm going to go this direction now. 7 minus 2 over 3 minus 1. X's together, Y's together, remember? And they have to go the same direction, or you're going to get negative signs that don't belong. So I get 5 over 2. Leave it as an improper fraction. When we talk about slope, it's an improper fraction because it tells us how to graph the line. Do not go 2 1/2. You've just totally killed the problem. We do not want that. Leave it as an improper fraction. Now, on the next one, what if I don't do that? What if I just draw arrows? Okay? What if I just say, hey, I want to go this direction? Notice I still put the x's together and the y's together, and you know, even if you write the formula down, notice I didn't label them, I still know it's the change in y or the change of x. So I go negative 8 minus a negative 3 over a negative 4 minus a negative 4. Now, let's do some math here. I get negative 8 plus 3 over negative 4 plus 4. That ends up being a negative 5 over 0. Can I divide anything by 0? No, that's undefined. So your slope is undefined. Remember, that's a vertical line. So we're going to talk about vertical lines. Let's look at the next one. And hopefully you guys are getting this down. We'll do the following one. And we'll go, this time, just to show the difference, I'm going to go this way. Y's first, and then I'm going to do x's next. So still using my slope formula. I'm going to go this way. 6 minus a negative 2 over negative 2 minus 4. 8 over a negative 6. Leave it as an improper fraction, but it must be reduced even if it's an improper fraction. Negative 4 over 3. So we have a negative slope. Let's do one last one here. And for those of you who want to label, there's a label over the top. If you can see those, x2, y2. You can zoom it in a little bit if you want. Hopefully I remember to zoom back out. So when I do that, plug in my formulas. We plug and chug 7 minus 7 over 3 minus 5. I get 0 over a negative 2, which is 0. The slope of the line is 0. My friends, that's actually a valid answer. That just happens to be a horizontal line. So let's talk about that. We should be able to identify lines based off of their slopes. The slope of a rising line from left to right is always positive. So going from left to right is positive. The slope of a falling line from left to right, so it's starting up here and then going down, is negative. And the slope of a horizontal line is 0. It's flat. Your horizon is a flat. So think flat for horizon. So it's going to be a slope of 0. There's no steepness to it whatsoever. A vertical line is going straight up and down. So think about it as like it's undefinable if you jumped off a cliff that was straight up and down. So you don't want to do it. So it's undefined. So let's just do a quick graphing of these just to get some ideas. So think of a positive one. That's a rising line here. We could do vertical. If I could draw a straight line today, I think I'm going to need to get my rulers out. So it's a vertical line. Notice where the vertical line hits the x-axis. A horizontal line, I'm just going to go straight across here. Oops, not even getting to see it right now. That's not very nice of me. And then we have our falling line. And the falling line, of course, would have a negative slope. And in the business world and in the economy right now, we've got a lot of falling lines, and that's not going well. All right, we're going to go through, and the next one we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular, but we will do that in the next segment.